everybody. Welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons. We're going to talk about wheel horsepower versus crank horsepower. There's a lot of confusion sometimes when you talk to people about, and you ask them how much horsepower does your car make. Sometimes they'll just blurt out a number. They'll say like 500 horsepower. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, 500 horsepower to the crank or to the wheel. So give you a little breakdown of how it works. This car right here is a Dodge Charger 392. Dodge says it makes 485 horsepower to the crank. So that's at the flywheel, that's right there. Now wheel horsepower goes through the drivetrain, comes to the rear, comes through the axles, and it actually goes to the wheel, putting it actually on the ground. So they put them on a dyno, and they have rollers, and they roll the rollers, and they'll give you an actual horsepower number for actual tire wheel horsepower to the ground. Then you have another option. You can use a mainline hub dyno, which they'll take your tires off, jack it up, and then they'll mount it to the hubs, and then it spins a little bit on the main line. It's a little bit more accurate, but not everybody has one. So most of the time you go, you see a dyno jet, you see a Mustang dyno, or I mean, I know there's a couple more out there, but you'll see mostly they're on the rollers. So this one, dyno to the wheel, made like 423 to the wheel. So it was 485 at the flywheel, and I think it was 423 to the wheel. So you have a little bit of drivetrain loss. The drivetrain loss in automatics are a little bit higher. Normally you fall in the averages of 15% to 20%. Automatics being a little bit higher, manuals being a little bit less, just because of the gearing and everything, and the amount of, I would guess you would call it parasitic loss through the transmission. This car right here, it dynoed and made 650, but if you add the 15% at the lower end of the calculation, 15%, I think it makes 747. So this is a 6-speed, that's automatic. Always be careful when you listen to people talking about it, because not everybody is going to be, as knowledgeable. This car, when it came from the factory, when it wasn't a supercharged car, it was just a regular 6.2 liter V8, made 455 to the wheels. And I think when he dynoed it, it made like 410 or 407. So I mean, it's numbers are numbers, and every dyno reads differently. So don't get caught up in numbers, don't get caught up in all these bragging rights with these big numbers. I think overall you should use a dyno as a tool to tune your car, to get it to run the optimal best. So your tuner can get it all dialed in, and you can have fun with your car without having your car break down all the time. But that's just the difference between crank horsepower and wheel horsepower. Just sometimes you got to make the you got to differentiate when you're talking to people. Most people just blurt off horsepower numbers. So that's our little tip for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget, hit the like button, subscribe, share, tell all your friends, and we'll be back with you next week with another episode. Thank you very much.